Hello and welcome back to S.E.L.F. This is social emotional learning for faculty, for the adults in the building. And I'm April Danielle, your host, and I have been in education for over 20 years, and I truly believe that healed teachers can heal the world. I believe social emotional wellness of our educators should be a top priority. And that's what this podcast is for, to guide you on this journey of social emotional wellness. So let's go ahead and get the party started. Hello, everybody. So this episode is all about CASEL's first standard, and that is self-awareness. I always say anyway that awareness is the first step to anything. I think even with the 12-step program, right? You have to first admit you have a problem. You have to be aware that you have a problem. If you guys are watching on YouTube right now, you may be like, April, what are you wearing? I want to start a self movement, right? S.E.L.F. for faculty movement. But another movement I'd love to start is that teachers wear scrubs. This should be a movement, people. So if you're not watching on YouTube, just know I have a scrub top on. Yes, I have a scrub top on. Do you want to know why that this should be a movement? Because of these pockets, can't really see them, but there are these pockets, like I could put my phone in there, I could put a timer, some whiteboard markers, a whiteboard eraser, right? Like this is perfect for teachers. Why did we not start this in the beginning? When nurses came out and started wearing scrubs, teachers should have been like, oh, that could benefit us too. And boom, we just wear scrubs. Okay, I'll get off that soapbox and let's get back to self-awareness. Self-awareness this is where everything starts. You cannot fix something if you are not aware of it. Let's talk about the power of awareness. And the power of awareness is it really is empowering, because when you are aware of a problem, an issue, or even something good, if you're aware of the good things too, this is not just being aware of the right? This is aware of everything. You have the power to do something about it, either amplify it, change it, shift it. But if you're not aware of it, you can't make intentional change. Now, changes may occur, but they won't be intentional. They'll almost be brought upon you, kind of like you're just flowing down a river, and letting things happen to you. So awareness is really a great tool for intentional living. So let's talk about awareness, how we become aware. First, let me tell you another story about the power of awareness. So I've always been I'm 4'11", I'm small, I mildly active, right? And so I went to Hawaii and I had a bathing suit on, and my boyfriend at the time took a picture of me. And normally I'm not in pictures, or maybe selfies. I'm selfie queen, right? And I'm not in pictures, so I don't really see what I look like. He took a picture and he sent it to me in the bathing suit. Guys, I had no idea. I had no idea that is what I looked like. And now what I look like is not important, but it really hit me oh, April, you are not fit, right? And I'll talk about how this could affect things later, but you're not fit. So it started something in me that wanted to create a change, but I didn't have this desire for change, this desire for growth, right? This desire for growth until I became aware of it. And sometimes we need to be hit in the face with it to become aware of it. Or again, we can just intentionally be aware of it. And why is this awareness so hard? I really think that awareness is trained out of us. It's trained out of us because when we are aware and express our own feelings and needs, it doesn't fit with the system, right? If you think about in school, when you become aware of a thought, it's not always safe to express it. If you have a feeling, right? We haven't created the system where we want kids to be self-aware. We want them to be aware of what we want, right? We want them to be aware of what we want and to do that. So, and this is not just a school thing, this is a parenting thing, a society thing, and it's for the good of all, right? It came with good intentions. We did not do this because we're evil and want little soldiers, but it creates a more harmonistic, is that a word? Harmonistic society, right? With everybody is kind of on the same page. So it's like, I don't need you to be self-aware. I need you to be aware of this page, of the story that's been written and where you fit into this story. So I really think self-awareness has been trained out of us. What is fantastic news is that with the push of SEL and social emotional learning, self-awareness is becoming a thing that's important. People are starting to realize how important it is to be self-aware. And not only that, how it impacts others in a positive way. So it's, again, not just for us. It's good for the collective as well. We're seeing the bigger impacts. So what are some things that you can work on being aware of? One of the biggest ones is thoughts. The thoughts that you have. Thoughts are super powerful. There are many, many books about this, right? You can just Google it, look it up on the power of thought, but thoughts become things. Thoughts become things. I think it might have been Abraham Hicks' husband that wrote a book on that. I'm not totally sure, but thoughts become things because they are what we have in our awareness. And if you listen to the episodes on the subconscious mind, this is why this happens. A thought also repeated becomes a belief when we repeatedly think this thought. And that's why our self-awareness is trained out of us as kids, because we start picking up other people's thoughts and making them our own. That's why it's good to be, one, really aware of the thoughts that you have and aware of your beliefs. How do those translate to beliefs? Because sometimes they're not your beliefs, but you hang on to them. Sometimes I'm like talking and all of a sudden my mother comes out of my mouth. And I'm like, wait a minute, I don't even know where that came from. I sounded just like my mother from when I was growing up. That wasn't me talking, right? So it's good to be aware of these things and pay attention to them. And we'll talk about self-management, but again, you can't make the change. You can't think about, oh, is this a belief that I really believe? Is this something that is mine and I really should have ownership of? Or is this something that I'd like to shift? We can't do any of that until we're aware of them. So start to become aware of your thoughts. This might get like, you might realize that you have 8 bazillion gazillion thoughts a day. Start to notice a pattern of the more prominent thoughts. I have a lot of thoughts on judgments at the gym. This is where a lot of my judgment comes in. For example, when I see today, guys, I saw spit on the track, right? It would like somebody, it's an indoor track, and somebody several times spit like on the side of it. And I became aware of it. And not only became aware of it, started having thoughts about the person who did that. That does not serve me. That judgment and that thought path and that huge rabbit hole does not serve me, nor does it serve that other person. I don't know why they did it. I don't know what kind of person they are. I can't save them. Save them from their spitting self. It doesn't serve a purpose. So pay attention to thoughts that become predominant, that come up often, right? And write those down. I suggest writing them down. You will forget. One of the things I have on my phone is that app that just chimes. I have it set for every hour right now. And it used to be to breathe, like to remind me to breathe. And now I use it to remind me to think about what my thoughts are. What am I thinking about right then? It becomes a habit. You really need to make it a habit, this awareness thing. So as you become aware of your thoughts, then you'll become aware of your belief. If it's a predominant thought, it's probably become a belief. It's good to go the other way too. Think about a belief you have, or as you're going through your day, recognize a belief and what thoughts have contributed to that. You can BAM it. You can, if you're older and you know the backwards assessment model, you can BAM your beliefs. Oh, that's so good. I should like totally make that a course. BAM your beliefs. Okay. Also pay attention to your actions. Now you'll notice that a lot of the things we're talking about, again, are not intentional and are like subconscious, right? So actions, when you come home, these might be a lot of triggers that happen that trigger these actions unconsciously. You come home and the first thing that you always do is you go grab a bag of chips as a snack and sit on the couch. Pay attention to that. You become aware of the actions and what triggered that action. That is super powerful because again, then you can do something about it. You can change the trigger or be aware of the trigger and change the action that happens after it. And awareness, really feel like awareness takes the emotion out of things. When I realize that these are my thoughts, right? They're just thoughts. I'm not as down on myself. Like I'm not as, oh, April, that's terrible that you're so judgmental. Oh, that was a thought. And then I can analyze that thought from a non-emotional perspective, which is healthier and really contributes and serves me so that, again, I can make those shifts and changes. Also pay attention to what you say. I feel like sometimes we think this is the same as our thoughts, but sometimes I feel like things that come out of my mouth did not have a chance to run through my brain first. I'm sure they did, but sometimes it doesn't feel like it. It's like that. I want to tell you a story about this too. So I was helping my daughter move into her dorm room, and her stepmom was there and my daughter said something about being stupid, like, oh, that was stupid. And I was like, Sage, don't say that. Don't say that about yourself. And her stepmom looked at me like I was crazy. She's like, are you kidding me right now? I'm like, what? She's like, you literally just called yourself stupid when you were doing that closet thing. I was like, I did? She's like, yes. I had no idea, guys. Even when she brought it up, I didn't even remember doing it, but I know that I do it. I know it is something that I do. And powerful thing about awareness, I had passed it down to my kid. I had passed that down to her, right? Being, again, judgmental of herself about making a mistake or doing something wrong. So this awareness can really impact generations, and it's hard sometimes to even realize that you're doing it. Tell a friend, tell your family, I really want to become aware of what I'm doing. Again, I really feel like this takes emotion and like judgment out of it. So like, you're like, hey guys, I want you to let me know kind of like actions or things that I say that you're like, right? Like, I don't know about that. And then it can become a conversation. It's not like, oh, you're wrong. You're doing something wrong. It's you asked them to do it and it became a conversation. Another funny story. So right now, my daughter is very into saying, mom moment. Every time I say something, I guess that's offensive. So I told my youngest the other day, I was like, oh, it looks like you have makeup on. Because she doesn't normally wear makeup. Apparently that was offensive because my oldest is like, mom moment. Or I told her, I was like, oh, you have a little zit there. Like, maybe you should pop it. And my oldest is like, mom moment. So really, she's pointing out and making me aware of these things that I say and I do and I think that might affect other people as well. Okay, so all of this can be connected, right? Your thoughts, your actions, your emotions, your feelings, your pain. Being aware of the pain in our body. Sometimes we dismiss it, we get rid of it. We just push through it because we have to get through the day. I had severe back pain many years ago, like 10 years ago. I worked in the school district. I had severe back pain. If you had asked me if I was stressed, I would be like, well, I mean, I have normal stress, but I'm really good at handling my stress. If you had asked me that, I had been to a neurologist. At one point I had meningitis and had many failed spinal taps. So I thought maybe it was because of that. Like really painful back pain. So a couple of years go by, I end up getting divorced and moving to a different school. Guys, my back pain was gone. My back pain was gone. And so it had to be connected to the stress, but I wasn't even aware enough of myself to make that connection. Again, if you had asked me, I would have said, I'm excellent at handling my stress. I'm not stressed, but obviously I was, because when a couple of my stressors were gone, my back pain literally disappeared, not even kidding. So when we have awareness of ourself, we might want to start also being aware of others. Sometimes this is even a little easier to start with. Awareness is a habit, right? Being mindful, being in the present moment. I know you guys have heard that, but doing that is a habit as well. And all of this contributes to being able to be aware, being able to be aware. So notice what others around you are saying. Like, again, it was much easier for me to notice that my daughter was calling herself stupid than when I was calling myself stupid. That was much easier to notice. So notice, and noticing what you notice is important as well, because your subconscious mind, as we've said before, likes to notice what it already thinks you think is important. So that I noticed her saying that because it was important to me for her not to believe that and not to say that to herself and not to create that story. That was important to me. So you might start noticing that you notice in others like a pattern. You're noticing the same things. And that's not because all these people are the same. It's because your subconscious brain is noticing what you think is important. Also be aware of what other people do. What are their actions? It's kind of cool to like step back and notice this. So separate what they're saying from their actions. Notice how people are moving, what decisions they're making, like which way to go and where. Again, this adds to mindfulness and awareness. How do they react when things happen? This is fun in a meeting. If you want to get through one of those meetings that legit could have been an email, start to play this game. Start to play the awareness game and be aware how people are reacting to what's being said. Like look around the room, kind of on the DL, try to do it on the DL and be like, oh, look, they're not even, I can tell by their mannerisms, right? That they probably aren't listening. That's an inference, but also my observation is they're kind of tilted back, their head is up, they're looking around, right? So that might be a fun game to play. Notice how other people react in meetings to what's being said. One last powerful thing to notice about others is, and oh my gosh, notice this about yourself too. I don't know why I didn't put this about yourself, but who do they blame? Who do they blame? Again, a powerful thing about self-awareness is that you realize that you have the power. There's a lot less blame. I don't blame anything for my daughter for saying that because I became aware through help. I became aware that it's something that I say, right? So there's not as much blame. So start to notice one, when you start blaming, and also who others blame. Who do they constantly say it's that person or that group of people's fault? That is something to become aware of. And you guys, this is all just awareness. Don't make changes. Judgment is coming up a lot in this episode, but don't make any judgments. Just become aware of what is. This leads me to the dangers of this. Just because something is doesn't mean anything bigger. There's nothing bigger than that, than it just is. And we don't need to attach to what is. So when we start to become aware of something, we start to make a story. That's kind of like the inference that I made. Like I became aware that maybe that person, why do I think it's a man? I don't know. In my head, my visualization, it's a man not paying attention in the meeting. And I became aware of it, but I started to make a story about it, right? He's not paying attention. He's not listening. He doesn't care what these people said. That's the story that I made. And stories can be dangerous if they don't serve us. And then we can attach to that story. So on the same vein, I might attach to that story and be like, oh, Mr. So-and-so, he never pays attention in meetings and he really just doesn't care. And now I've attached to the story instead of just becoming aware. I might become aware of my thoughts or actions like procrastination. I might become aware that I constantly pick up my phone and am getting on social media as a way to procrastinate. If I make that a story about I am a procrastinator, then I attach to that label. And then that is harder habit to break because I've made it who I am, not just an awareness of what I do. Work this backwards too. So if you have a story, become aware of the thoughts, beliefs, actions, behaviors that are contributing to that story. Because when you break it down like that, the story is easier to break apart if it's a story that doesn't serve you. Now, in all of this, I know I talk a lot about the negative, but pay attention and be aware of the positive too. This is where appreciation comes in, right? This is why, that's the dog. Become aware of the dog chasing the cat, because the dog thinks that the cat wants her bone. He does not. Anyway, when you become aware, now my track. This is when I teach, guys. If this is why they can get me off on like total mass squirrel movement. It is because I get distracted so easily. Oh, that's a story. So take the story, break it down, and you can make changes and shifts more easily. My point was, regardless of where I was going, is that it can become dangerous to attach to things. Take out the emotion. And this awareness, I really feel like, really helps take out that emotion in just a conversation with yourself or with someone else. And this also leads to journaling. Journal about the awareness. Let's say you're like, I try to think of my thoughts during the day. Again, I can't pay attention enough. You guys, I've been there. Like, I'm like, when my phone will go off and I'll be like, oh, what was I thinking? I'm like, was I thinking? I have no idea. That's where journaling can help. So just kind of start to free write, and your thoughts be like, just like I would tell my students, like, if you don't know what to write, just write, I don't know what to write. And like, keep writing that until something comes. Your thoughts will start coming out. And that's a good way to start being aware of what you're thinking and believing. Okay, so thank you for being with me and that crazy dog moment. And let's make scrubs a movement after the self movement. Let's start with S.E.L. for adults first, and then we'll go to the scrub movement. And I will see you guys next week. Go ahead, go out there and be aware. And I'd love to hear about how it went. How did awareness go? And oh my gosh, I almost forgot to tell you, I have a self-awareness journal. Holy camolies, people. This is what happens when I don't write things down in my notes. I have a self-awareness journal that is a freebie. I will put it in the show notes, link below. Just go ahead and click on that. You put your email in, you get this free 30-day self-awareness journal. Each day has 3 prompts. If you're not a journaler and you don't want to write it, ponder the questions. It just helps guide you in your awareness journey. So go ahead and download that self-awareness journey. Let us know how everything is going. Love to hear about your self-awareness journey. See you next week.